Light breaks across a primeval horizon, thin and amber, spilling through veils of steam. The steam rises from a breathing earth, shrouding the ancient world in mystery. The forest awakens not with bird song, but with the friction of survival. Leaves rasp against one another, whispering secrets of a time before names. Insects drone like distant engines, a mechanical hum in the organic silence. Trunks creak as if remembering the weight of centuries pressing down. The air tastes of resin and wet stone, thick with the scent of raw life. Somewhere beneath the soil, heat presses upward, a slow pulse that never sleeps. The ground answers with a tremor so faint it feels imagined, a ghost of motion. Yet everything living freezes, sensing the signal passing through bone and root. A silence falls, heavier than the mist, waiting for the source of the fear. The tremor comes again, stronger this time, a heartbeat of the land itself. It is not the earth that moves, but something that walks upon it with absolute claim. A mass moves where the forest thickens, reshaping the darkness into form. Trees bend in submission, their wood groaning under the passing waves. Bark splits and falls like dry skin, marking the passage of a king. Ferns collapse in waves, crushed into mud without a moment's hesitation. Each step lands with gravity, learned through survival, heavy and deliberate. This is a cadence carved into the land by years of absolute dominance. Scarred skin stretches over muscle that rolls like a storm held under high. The muscles tighten, distinct and powerful, a map of battles won and survived. Breath pours from a wide chest in steady clouds, warm and confident. It carries the copper memory of old blood, a scent that clears the path ahead. The forest recoils, shadows withdrawing to make room for the apex. The ruler has arrived, and the world bends to accommodate its stride. Across a low ridge, the tone of the world shifts, becoming sharper, colder. Sound thins here. Insects stagger into silence, sensing a different kind of death. A second presence slips through undergrowth without protest, a ghost in the grass. It is low and fluid, a blade passing through the world, cutting without tearing. It moves with economy, wasting nothing, every muscle twitch calculated. It reads the ground through the soles of its feet, feeling the vibrations of the giant. Eyes catch the light and do not give it back, absorbent pools of intent. Heat maps ripple across its senses, a hidden world of thermal tracks. Footprints, broken stems, a path of crushed life leading to something enormous. The smaller hunter slows, not in fear, but in absolute precision. This is a place where mistakes do not echo. They simply end. Between them opens a valley, a pale wound where a river once wrote its name. Stone lies exposed, cracked and chalky, baking under the relentless sun. The ground is scattered with ribs bleached white, monuments to hunger. Skulls half swallowed by dust stare blindly at the indifferent sky. Wind moves through hollow bone, making a sound like breath returning to the dead. The sun climbs higher, stretching shadows into long black spears. The shadows point inward towards the center of the arena, marking the spot. The land tightens, waiting for the impact that history demands. The larger predator steps into the open, a mountain detaching from the horizon. Its shadow pours across stone and bone, swallowing the valley floor whole. Head lifts, nostrils flaring as the air is tasted and categorized. Another apex signature cuts through the heat, a challenge on the wind. Ownership flares in its eyes, a primitive and absolute right to this space. The stance widens, feet planting firmly into the chalky earth. Tail balances mass with practiced ease, a counterweight to lethal force. Teeth show, not as a threat, but as a simple statement of truth. This body has ended lives before, and it is prepared to do so again. From the tree line opposite, the smaller hunter reveals itself in fragments. A shoulder here, a flank there, never presenting a whole target. It angles its body, testing the distance, measuring the geometry of the kill. It measures the weight of the shadow ahead. respecting the physics of size. The space between them vibrates, charged with the static of imminent violence. Dust lifts in tiny spirals, dancing between the titans. Time thickens, stretching like sap, slowing the world down to a single point. Every nerve waits, strung tight, ready to snap into action. The wind dies. The sun holds its breath. The valley becomes a stage. The charge detonates without warning, a sudden explosion of kinetic energy. Stone explodes beneath thunderous weight, shrapnel flying like hail. Air rips apart as jaws slam shut on emptiness, a bite that could crush bone. The smaller hunter is already gone, a blur of instinct and speed. It cuts sideways, claws screaming across rock, sparking against the stone. Sparks flash like brief stars, illuminating the dust of the fray. It snaps back in, slashing flesh with surgical precision. A seam opens along the giant's flank, a red line drawn on gray hide. Blood erupts, dark and steaming, painting the valley with sudden color. The smell hits like iron rain, sharp and undeniable. A roar tears loose, rolling across the land, flattening grass. It is not pain that fuels it, but fury sharpened by the insult of injury. The giant pivots, tail scything the ground like a siege weapon. It carves trenches in the earth, breaking bone and stone alike. The smaller hunter darts in and out, a shadow boxing a mountain, striking low, vanishing, reappearing when the weight cannot follow. Speed against force, precision against momentum, the eternal dance. The valley becomes a storm of dust and motion, obscuring the combatants. Impact, a jaw finds flesh, a collision that shakes the camera. A shoulder crushes, the smaller body slams into stone. Breath is driven out in a violent silence, a vacuum of pain. The earth answers with a dull crack, receiving the fallen weight. Dust pours down like a curtain, closing on the scene. For heartbeat, nothing moves. The world wonders if it is over. Then the smaller hunter rises, one limb faltering, driven by refusal. Eyes burning with a fire that pain cannot extinguish. Breath is ragged and sharp, cutting the throat like glass. Standing is the only rule left. To lie down is to die. Immediately, no strategy now, only desperation. Claws rake faces, leaving trails of red light. Teeth close and slip on sweat and blood, grappling for purchase. Blood blinds the eyes, turning the world into a red haze. Heat hammers down, thick and punishing, draining their strength. Flies gather in the air like living static, sensing the end. Each movement costs something precious now, a currency of life. The giant steps short. The momentum is fading. The smaller hunter's rhythm stutters, agility compromised by pain. The world narrows to pulse and pressure. Nothing else exists. The sound of breath tearing through throats drowns out the wind. The ground gives way beneath a misstep, a betrayal of the earth. Stone fractures, sending dust pluming into the heated air. Bodies collide and roll, locked together in a tangle of limbs. Muscle on muscle, will against will, a tangle of primal forces. Trees at the valley's edge splinter and fall as the fight spills over. The sky seems to tilt as the perspective of power shifts. When they break apart, both are changed, carved by the encounter. One eye's gone to shadow, a permanent darkness. One limb hangs useless, a broken wing on a flightless bird. Blood runs freely, soaking into dust that drinks it without comment. Silence returns in pieces, fragmented and cautious. Wind first, whispering through the wreckage of the grove. Then insects, cautiously returning to the air in different witnesses. The sun climbs higher, bleaching color from the world. In this pause, endurance is weighed against survival. Hunger, pain, memory, everything presses inward. The smaller hunter lowers itself, shifting what strength remains. It aligns itself into a final line of attack, a spear of flesh. The giant gathers its mass, drawing breath like a collapsing mountain. They run toward each other, the final commitment, The collision is a detonation without flame, purely organic. Claws anchor deep. Teeth search for the vital flow. Flesh yields, tearing under the pressure of evolution's design. Blood pours, a river finally returning to the dry valley. The smaller hunter leaps, reaching for the fragile line beneath the jaw. Where breath becomes life, the target is clear. The giant twists, bearing down with the last of its gravity. Bone gives with a sound like dry wood snapping in winter. They fall together, a tangled monument of dying fury. Motion drains away, seeping into the ground with the blood. Breath slows, then falters, a rhythm losing its drummer. Dust settles, revealing bodies pressed into ancient ground. Still locked by momentum and fate, inseparable in the end. One chest rises once more, a final protest against the dark. Then not again. The silence is absolute. The other remains, but only barely, a flickering candle. Blood pooling, warmth bleeding into stone, stealing the heat. Eyes dimming as the sky holds no answer for the violence. Wind whispers through broken ferns, a eulogy for no one. Rain gathers far away, gray clouds piling on the horizon. It is already forgetting this place, washing the memory clean. Sediment will come. The river will return. Time will bury the valley, the bones, the tremor of this moment. Forests will rise and fall, roots drinking from this sacrifice. Oceans will shift, erasing the map that guided them here. Names will never be given to these kings, but the earth remembers weight. It keeps the score. Beneath layers of silence, it keeps the echo of two apex forces, meeting at the edge of endurance, where life burns hottest. Not as heroes or monsters, simply as life, stripped to its truest shape, wild, merciless, magnificent, burning briefly beneath a young sun that has seen it all. The valley darkens, shadows claiming the victors. Stars emerge, ancient and cold, watching the stillness. A scavenger creeps out, small and furry, the future arriving. It sniffs the air, wary of the giants, even in death. The cycle turns. The energy passes on. Rain finally falls, washing dust from scales. The sound of rain replaces the sound of breath. Mud rises, embracing the fallen, starting the long sleep. The forest creeps back, seeds taking root in the disturbance. A year passes in a blink. Flesh becomes soil. Bone remains, the white architecture of power. The river returns, flowing over the ribs, singing a new song. Sunlight filters through water, dappling the ancient grin. The world has moved on, but the story is locked in stone. Deep below, the pressure builds, turning bone to rock. Millions of years compress into a single layer of strata. A record waiting to be read, a message from the deep past. The tremor that started it all is now just a line in the rock. But in the silence, if you listen, the roar still echoes. The friction of leaves, the drone of insects, it is the same song. Life continues, violent and beautiful, in an unbroken chain. We walk on the graves of titans, unaware of the history beneath.
It's absolutely breathtaking this time of
the
day.
Resin, the wet stone,
We should definitely
the heat,
plan to come
it
back
all
in the
remains.
spring.
The atmosphere of the primeval world lingers in the shadows, a memory of copper blood and thunderous weight. The forest remembers, the earth remembers, and in the quiet moments, the king walks again. A phantom of dominance, a shadow in the genetic code. The blade in the grass, the hunter's eye, it is never gone. It merely changes shape, adapting to the new world. The story of survival is the only story that matters. And here, in this valley, the chapter was written in blood. A testament to the will to live, to stand, to fight. The sun sets on the area, a curtain closing slowly. Darkness claims the land, but the heat remains. The pulse beneath the soil beats on, eternal and indifferent, waiting for the next king to rise, waiting for the next shadow to fall. The cycle is a circle, unbroken and cruel. But in that cruelty, there's a terrible beauty. The beauty of strength, of motion, of consequence. This is the primeval horizon, where light breaks, where the earth breathes and remembers, where we stood witness to to the end of a world and the beginning of a silence. Let the dust settle. Let the bones sleep. The echo is enough. It resonates in the deep places of the world, in the marrow of the mountains, in the salt of the sea. The memory holds. Two forces meeting in the dark, defining existence with every strike. We leave them now to their eternal rest, buried by the weight of time, but never truly gone. For the earth is a graveyard of giants, and we are but guests walking on their roof. Listen closely to the wind. Can you hear the heavy step? Can you feel the tremor? The past is alive beneath our feet. Breathing, waiting, remembering. Light breaks across the horizon once more. Thin and amber, spilling through steam. The story begins again. Another life, another fight, another end. This is the nature of the wild. Merciless, magnificent, eternal. We watch and we wonder at the weight of the earth, at the echo of the past. Goodbye to the giants, until the earth remembers again. Silence,